Are some of the foods you're reheating every day quietly damaging your metabolism and placing stress on one of the most important and most overlooked organs in your body, your pancreas? Most people think about calories, sugar, or fat when they think about metabolic health, but very few people think about how food preparation, especially reheating, changes the chemistry of what you're eating. Here's what's really going on inside your body. When certain foods are cooked, cooled, and then reheated, their molecular structure changes. Fats oxidize. Proteins form advanced glycation end products. Starches can become more inflammatory. And in some cases, new compounds are formed that your pancreas, the organ responsible for insulin production and blood sugar control, has to work much harder to manage. And when the pancreas is constantly under metabolic stress, insulin demand rises. Inflammation increases. Blood sugar regulation becomes less stable. Over time, this creates an environment that is strongly associated with metabolic dysfunction. And in the research, metabolic dysfunction is one of the major risk factors linked to pancreatic disease. This isn't about fear. This is about understanding root causes, because pancreatic health is not just about avoiding sugar. It's about reducing chronic inflammation. It's about improving insulin sensitivity. It's about protecting your cells from oxidative stress. And surprisingly, the way you handle leftovers can either support that or silently work against it. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Think of your metabolism like a clean burning engine. Fresh, whole foods are high-quality fuel. But when oils are reheated repeatedly, when proteins are overcooked and reheated, and when processed starches are heated again and again, it's like pouring partially burned fuel back into the engine. The system still runs, but it creates more smoke, more residue, and more internal damage. That residue in your body shows up as higher insulin demand, fat storage around the liver and pancreas, increased oxidative stress, chronic low-grade inflammation. And these are not small issues. These are the same metabolic pathways that drive weight gain, fatigue, insulin resistance, and accelerated aging. The good news? Once you understand which reheated foods are most problematic and why, you can make simple, practical changes that dramatically reduce metabolic stress without giving up convenience. You don't need extreme diets. You don't need expensive supplements. You just need to know which habits are silently working against your biology. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the 5 most problematic reheated foods for pancreatic stress. What happens to their chemistry when you reheat them? How that affects insulin, inflammation, and fat storage. And most importantly, what to do instead. Because protecting your pancreas isn't just about disease prevention. It's about better energy, stable blood sugar, easier fat loss, sharper focus, and long-term metabolic resilience. And once you see how simple these changes are, you'll never look at leftovers the same way again. Let's start with the key mechanisms you need to understand. Let's start with something almost everyone uses in the kitchen: cooking oils. Vegetable oils, seed oils, and even olive or canola oil are common in our meals. On the surface, they seem harmless, even healthy. But here's what's really going on inside your body when these oils are reheated repeatedly. When oils are heated, especially above 350 degree to 175 degree, the delicate fatty acids begin to break down. This process produces lipid peroxides, unstable molecules that can react with proteins and DNA. In other words, reheated oils become pro-inflammatory and oxidative. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine your pancreas as a delicate engine. Fresh oil lubricates it smoothly, but reheated oil is like contaminated engine oil. It increases friction, produces residue, and accelerates wear over time. Now, why does this matter for pancreatic health? Oxidative stress. Lipid peroxides generate free radicals in your bloodstream. Your pancreas, which produces insulin and digestive enzymes, is particularly vulnerable to oxidative damage. Over time, this stresses beta cells, the very cells responsible for regulating blood sugar. Inflammation. Chronic exposure to oxidized fats triggers systemic inflammation. Elevated inflammatory markers like CRP and IL-6 are strongly associated with insulin resistance and pancreatic tissue stress. Metabolic disruption. These oxidative and inflammatory changes reduce insulin sensitivity, forcing your pancreas to produce more insulin. Repeated over time, this increases the risk of beta cell burnout and contributes to a metabolic environment linked to pancreatic cancer. What does research show? Multiple studies in nutritional biochemistry indicate that reheated oils increase markers of oxidative stress and inflammation, and that diets high in oxidized fats correlate with higher metabolic stress on the pancreas. So, what can you do? Here are actionable solutions. Cook with stable oils. Coconut oil, ghee, or avocado oil are more heat stable than most vegetable oils. Avoid multiple reheating cycles. If you cook with oil, try to use it once per meal, then discard or store unused portions properly. Moderate temperature. Avoid deep frying or high heat pan frying for reheated foods. Slow sautéing is safer. Pair with antioxidants. Adding garlic, turmeric, or rosemary during cooking can help neutralize some oxidative compounds. If this is helpful so far, consider subscribing. I post content like this every day to help you protect your metabolism naturally. Now let's talk about something almost everyone eats daily: starches, rice, potatoes, pasta, and bread. These foods are generally considered staples, but the way we reheat them can have a hidden impact on your pancreas. Here's what's really going on inside your body. When starches are cooked and then cooled, a process called retrogradation occurs. Some starches crystallize into a form known as resistant starch, which is actually beneficial because it feeds healthy gut bacteria and has a lower impact on blood sugar. However, when these cooled starches are reheated at high temperatures, something different happens. The starches break down into simpler sugars more rapidly. This leads to a faster glycemic response when you eat them. In plain language, your blood sugar spikes more quickly than with freshly cooked starches. Now, why does that matter for pancreatic health? Higher insulin demand, rapid blood sugar spikes force your pancreas to secrete large amounts of insulin in a short time. Over weeks and months, this repeated stress can fatigue beta cells, which are the very cells that regulate insulin. Oxidative stress and inflammation. Just like with reheated oils, repeated exposure to high blood sugar can increase oxidative stress in pancreatic tissue. This creates a metabolic environment that favors chronic inflammation, which research links to pancreatic dysfunction. Metabolic consequences. Over time, repeated insulin surges can promote insulin resistance, fat storage around the liver and pancreas, and impaired glucose tolerance, all risk factors for metabolic disease and, according to studies, increased pancreatic cancer risk. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Think of your pancreas like a pump. Freshly cooked starches require a gentle squeeze to regulate sugar. Reheated starches, they hit the pump like a sudden flood, straining it unnecessarily every time you eat. So, what can you do to protect your pancreas while still enjoying your favorite starches? Gentle reheating, warm leftovers slowly on the stovetop or in a low-temperature oven instead of high-powered microwaves. Combine with fiber and protein. Pair reheated starches with vegetables, beans, or protein to slow glucose absorption. Portion control. Reheat only the portion you intend to eat, minimizing repeated exposure to high insulin spikes. Cool and refrigerate properly. Store starches at safe temperatures to promote resistant starch formation without over-concentrating simple sugars. These small adjustments reduce pancreatic stress while still allowing you to enjoy convenient meals. Next, we'll examine reheated meats and why high heat reheating can create compounds that directly damage DNA in pancreatic cells, a major hidden risk most people never consider. Now let's tackle one of the most concerning culprits: reheated meats. Chicken, beef, pork, and fish are staples in most diets, but when they are cooked, cooled, and reheated, especially at high temperatures, they form compounds that can be harmful to your pancreas. Here's what's really going on inside your body. When meat is cooked at high temperatures, frying, broiling, or grilling, certain chemical reactions produce heterocyclic amines, HCAs, and polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, PAHs. These are not just theoretical toxins, they are DNA-reactive compounds. Reheating previously cooked meat can increase the concentration of these compounds because the molecular changes continue during heating. Imagine the first cooking process as lightly toasting the meat. Reheating aggressively is like turning that toast into charcoal, intensifying the reactive molecules. Why does this matter for the pancreas? DNA damage. HCAs and PAHs are metabolized in your liver into reactive molecules that can bind to DNA, forming adducts. This interferes with normal cell replication and repair, which over time can increase the risk of mutations in pancreatic tissue, inflammation, and oxidative stress. These compounds also increase reactive oxygen species, ROS, which leads to inflammation and further metabolic strain on pancreatic beta cells. Metabolic vulnerability, a pancreas under constant metabolic stress from insulin surges, inflammation, and oxidative damage, is more susceptible to long-term dysfunction and disease. What the research shows is clear. Diets high in heavily cooked or reheated meats correlate with higher markers of oxidative stress and DNA damage, and these pathways are linked to increased pancreatic risk. But this doesn't mean you must give up meat. It's about how you cook and reheat it. Avoid high-heat reheating. Instead of pan-frying or broiling leftovers, use gentle reheating methods like steaming or low-temperature stovetop warming. Marinate before cooking. Ingredients like lemon juice, vinegar, garlic, and rosemary reduce HCA formation by providing antioxidant protection. Avoid charring. The blackened portions of meat contain the highest levels of HCAs and PAHs. Add protective foods. Cruciferous vegetables, polyphenol-rich herbs, and leafy greens help your body neutralize harmful compounds naturally. If this level of detail is helping you take control of your health, consider subscribing. I post content like this every day, breaking down science into practical strategies. Next, we'll look at processed and fried reheated foods, which contain acrylamides and advanced glycation end products, compounds that silently stress your pancreas and accelerate inflammation. Now we turn to a category many people underestimate: processed and fried foods. Think leftover French fries, reheated packaged snacks, or even frozen pizza. These foods may taste convenient, but reheating them repeatedly can create compounds that stress your pancreas in ways most people never consider. Here's what's really going on inside your body. When starchy or high-protein foods are cooked at high temperatures, like frying, baking, or roasting, a chemical reaction called the Maillard reaction occurs. This produces advanced glycation end products, AGEs, and acrylamides. Both are reactive compounds that increase oxidative stress, inflammation, and insulin resistance. Reheating these foods intensifies the problem. Each time the food is heated, additional AGEs and acrylamides form. Imagine your pancreas as a delicate filter. Fresh foods are gentle on it, but reheated processed foods are like pouring abrasive sand through the system repeatedly, causing microdamage over time. Why this matters for pancreatic health? AGEs and cellular stress. AGEs can bind to receptors called RAGE on pancreatic cells, triggering inflammatory pathways. Chronic inflammation is a key factor in pancreatic metabolic dysfunction. Acrylamides and DNA damage. Acrylamides formed in carbohydrate-rich foods cooked at high heat can interfere with normal cellular repair processes. Studies link high acrylamide exposure to increased oxidative stress and DNA damage, both contributors to pancreatic disease risk. Metabolic disruption. High levels of AGEs and acrylamides promote insulin resistance. Your pancreas must produce more insulin to compensate, leading to chronic beta cell stress over months and years. Practical strategies to reduce risk. Minimize reheating fried or processed foods. If possible, cook only what you will eat in one sitting. Choose gentle reheating methods. Steaming or low-temperature baking reduces the formation of additional harmful compounds. Pair with antioxidants. Include vegetables or fresh herbs with every meal. Polyphenols help neutralize some of the oxidative damage. Limit fried foods in your diet overall. Even if you're not reheating them, reducing exposure lowers cumulative stress on your pancreas. By making these small adjustments, you significantly reduce pancreatic stress without sacrificing convenience or enjoyment. Next, we'll examine microwave reheating and why this modern convenience can unexpectedly accelerate chemical reactions that burden pancreatic health. Microwaves are one of the most common ways we reheat food. They're fast, convenient, and often considered harmless. But here's what's really going on inside your food, and ultimately inside your pancreas, when you rely heavily on microwave reheating. Microwave heating works by exciting water molecules in food, creating heat from the inside out. Unlike gentle stovetop or oven warming, microwaves can create hot spots where parts of the food get much hotter than others. These localized high temperatures accelerate chemical reactions in fats, proteins, and carbohydrates, increasing the formation of oxidized fats, acrylamides, and Maillard reaction products. Let me explain with a simple analogy. Imagine your food as a city and your pancreas as the city's sewage system. A slow, steady flow, gentle reheating allows the system to manage waste safely. Microwaving creates sudden bursts of chemical pollution, forcing the pancreas to work harder to detoxify reactive compounds. Why this matters for pancreatic health? Oxidative stress. Microwaved fats and oils produce lipid peroxides faster than stovetop heating, promoting free radicals that stress pancreatic cells. Uneven heating and nutrient degradation. Some vitamins and antioxidants in your food can break down at hot spots, reducing protective compounds that would otherwise mitigate oxidative damage. Plastic containers. If you microwave food in non-microwave safe plastic, endocrine-disrupting chemicals like BPA or phthalates can leach into your food, adding another layer of pancreatic stress. Practical strategies to protect your pancreas. Use glass or ceramic containers. Avoid plastic, even if labeled microwave safe, to prevent chemical leaching. Stir and rotate. Ensure even heating to prevent hot spots that accelerate harmful reactions. Lower power settings, heat at 50-70% power for longer periods rather than blasting at 100%, which reduces the formation of reactive compounds. Limit frequency. Try to reserve microwaving for foods that are minimally processed or lightly cooked, rather than heavily fried or oily leftovers. By making these adjustments, you reduce the pancreatic workload and limit the accumulation of oxidative and DNA-reactive compounds in your meals. Next, we'll wrap up with practical prevention strategies, tying all these insights together into a daily protocol that protects your pancreas while still letting you enjoy your favorite foods. After exploring how reheated oils, starches, meats, processed foods, and microwaving impact pancreatic health, it's time to translate this knowledge into actionable daily strategies. These are simple, practical habits that reduce pancreatic stress, minimize exposure to harmful compounds, and support long-term metabolic and digestive health. Here's what you can do. 1. Cook fresh, eat fresh when possible. Aim to prepare meals that can be eaten in one sitting. If you do need leftovers, prioritize foods that are less prone to oxidative damage, like vegetables, legumes, and minimally processed proteins. 2. Choose heat-stable oils. Use oils like ghee, avocado, or coconut oil for high-heat cooking. Avoid repeatedly heating vegetable oils or seed oils, which break down into lipid peroxides that stress your pancreas. 3 gentle reheating techniques. Reheat on the stovetop, in a slow oven, or via steaming. Avoid high-power microwaving for fried or processed foods. Stir foods to ensure even heating, reducing hot spots that accelerate harmful chemical formation. 4 pair foods with protective compounds. Include antioxidant-rich herbs and vegetables with meals. Garlic, turmeric, rosemary, spinach, and kale can neutralize free radicals and reduce oxidative stress on pancreatic cells. 5. Limit fried and highly processed foods. Even when eaten fresh, these foods are metabolically stressful. Reducing their frequency lowers your cumulative exposure to acrylamides, AGEs, and HCAs. 6. Mind starch management. Reheated rice, pasta, and potatoes can spike insulin. To mitigate this, Reheat slowly at low temperature. Pair with protein, fiber, or healthy fats to slow glucose absorption. Store cooled starches properly to encourage formation of beneficial resistant starch without generating excessive simple sugars. 7. Microwave safely. Use glass or ceramic containers instead of plastic, lower power settings, and stir to prevent hot spots. Limit repeated microwaving of fried or oily foods. 8. Hydration and lifestyle support, adequate water intake, regular physical activity, and balanced sleep support pancreatic health by improving insulin sensitivity and reducing systemic inflammation. The overarching principle here is root cause thinking. It's not just about avoiding unhealthy foods, it's about how food is cooked, stored, and reheated, because these processes influence oxidative stress, inflammation, and pancreatic workload. By implementing these strategies consistently, you can enjoy convenience without compromising your pancreatic health. Even small changes, like swapping reheated fried oils for fresh cooked vegetables or microwaving in glass instead of plastic, accumulate over time, protecting your insulin-producing beta cells and reducing long-term disease risk. If this guidance is useful, consider subscribing. I share daily science-driven strategies that make complex health concepts practical and actionable. Next, we'll move into the conclusion, summarizing all insights and offering a simple, actionable challenge to apply today. Let's recap what we've learned today. The pancreas is a small organ, but it plays a huge role in your energy, metabolism, and long-term health. From insulin regulation to digestive enzyme production, keeping your pancreas healthy is essential for fat metabolism, blood sugar balance, and reducing the risk of serious diseases, including pancreatic cancer. What we've uncovered is that reheated foods are more than just a convenience issue. Oils, starches, meats, and processed foods, when cooked, cooled, and reheated, can create compounds that stress your pancreas. Oxidized oils produce free radicals. Reheated starches trigger insulin surges. Heated meats form DNA-reactive HCAs and PAHs. Processed foods create acrylamides and AGEs. Microwaving improperly accelerates chemical reactions and nutrient loss. Here's the good news. You can reduce risk with practical, actionable steps. Cook fresh when possible, reheat gently, pair meals with antioxidants, avoid repeated high heat frying, and pay attention to portion and storage. These strategies reduce pancreatic stress, lower inflammation, and help your body maintain healthy metabolic function. Think of it like maintaining a delicate engine. Small, consistent adjustments, like using heat-stable oils, controlling reheating methods, and pairing foods strategically, make your pancreas more resilient over time. Here's a direct challenge for you. Choose one type of reheated food today and implement a safer method. Perhaps steam your leftover rice instead of microwaving it at full power, or reheat your chicken slowly on the stovetop instead of tossing it into the microwave. Track how your meals feel and how your energy and digestion respond over the next week. Small changes compound, and over time, they protect your pancreas and overall metabolic health. Remember, this isn't about fear. It's about empowerment through knowledge. Understanding how reheated foods impact your body gives you control over your long-term health outcomes. Your pancreas will thank you, your energy levels will improve, and you'll reduce the risk of serious metabolic and digestive conditions. If this added value, like the video and subscribe to join a community of people optimizing their health naturally. Every small adjustment you make today is a step towards sustained energy, healthy weight, and long-term vitality. Your pancreas may be small, but your ability to protect it is powerful. Start today. Implement one change, track your results, and build momentum toward a healthier future. Now we move into one of the most studied areas in food toxicology, reheated meats. Here's what's really going on inside your body. When muscle meats, chicken, beef, lamb, fish, are cooked at high temperatures, especially grilling, frying, or broiling, they form compounds called heterocyclic amines, HCAs, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, PAHs. These form when amino acids, sugars, and creatine react under high heat. Now here's the key point. Reheating previously cooked meat at high temperatures can increase the concentration of these compounds. So the sequence becomes cook, cool, reheat at high heat, increased toxin load. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Think of the first cooking process as creating microscopic burn signals in the meat. When you reheat it aggressively, you intensify those signals, increasing the number of reactive molecules. These molecules are not just passive. HCAs and PAHs are metabolized in the liver into compounds that can bind to DNA and form DNA adducts. These adducts interfere with normal cell replication and repair. Now connect this to the pancreas. The pancreas is exposed to circulating metabolites after digestion. Chronic exposure to DNA-damaging compounds increases the risk of mutations, especially in a metabolically stressed environment with high insulin, chronic inflammation, oxidative stress. That combination creates what we call a pro-carcinogenic microenvironment. What the research shows is that high intake of heavily cooked or processed meats is associated with increased risk of pancreatic cancer. The mechanism is linked to HCA exposure, nitrosamines, and inflammatory signaling. But again, this is not about fear. It's about cooking methods and metabolic context. Here's how to dramatically reduce HCA and PAH formation. First, avoid reheating meat using high-heat dry methods like frying, grilling, or broiling. Second, use gentle reheating methods. Steaming, low-temperature stovetop with water, sous vide-style warming. These reduce additional toxin formation. Third, marinate meats before cooking. Marinades containing lemon juice, vinegar, garlic, rosemary have been shown to significantly reduce HCA formation by providing antioxidant protection. Fourth, avoid charring. The blackened portion of meat contains the highest concentration of PAHs. Fifth, incorporate protective foods in the same meal. Cruciferous vegetables enhance detox enzymes, chlorophyll-rich greens, bind mutagens, polyphenols,